Okay, a while ago, I said Zankou might be one of the most future-proof DPS characters in NTE. This was largely due to her being able to spread and amplify damage over time effects. And after actually playing her, I think I was looking at the wrong thing. Granted, Zankou is quite the powerhouse in terms of DPS, but for me, that's no longer the most interesting thing about her. What has drawn my interest the most and shocked me is just how many problems she can solve for other teams. The biggest discovery for me with Zankou's full kit isn't just the damage over time spreading and the scaling, not even the crazy damage you can get when you use her rotations well. If I were to put it into one sentence, it would be this. Zankou turns Scorch from something your team needs to repeatedly apply into a permanent status effect that stays on the enemy. To further show how intentional this utility is, the devs made it so that she starts with a full Esper cycle, ensuring that she can apply Scorch at the start of the battle and never need to reapply it again. That for me changes the conversation about Zankou completely. Instead of me wondering what she can do with her own personal damage, I now find myself wondering how good she can make the teams that exist now and will exist going into the future with this mechanic. As looking at the way this mechanic works, Zankou isn't merely just another damage over time DPS, she is also an instant cycle reaction enabler. This for me puts her in a very different conversation. When a new DPS unit is released, it is easy to fall into the trap of looking at the things we are used to. We look at the ultimate, maybe the damage numbers, and in Zankou's case, one of her biggest talking points has been the one-shot damage of her break team. This is all understandable. Damage is easy to see and quantify. Utility on the other hand, not so much. A character hitting 1,000,000 damage gives you something immediate that you can understand. On the flip side, a unit saving you 7 to 10 seconds of setup time requires a bit more understanding. In games like these, where the rotations are constrained by time, all time savings directly lead to more DPS. Zankou is now the perfect example of this. Only after 0 of course, but their usage is really the same. Normally, in any rotation that does not have an instant cycle unit, you have to earn that reaction. You need the character on field, you need them attacking, to build up that Esper cycle. This involves spending valuable time on field, charging up the cycle. This is why, although Discord was a 3-element reaction, it was possible but not the most ideal, as you don't want to spend time building cycle on a support. In casual content, it isn't that important, but in difficult timed content, the difference starts to slowly matter. So here's the first question I want you to keep at the back of your mind. Imagine how much smoother your favorite rotation would be if you could keep your reaction active without worrying about having to reapply it. Zankou doesn't build it faster or more efficiently than some units. She has it filled at the start. Zankou's starting Esper cycle is easy to underestimate, especially if you look at it in isolation. Sure, she gives you a full Esper cycle at the start. That's convenient and great for the first rotation. You skip a few seconds of setup and that's about it. Because she enters the fight already charged, she can immediately trigger a Scorch reaction without spending time on the field. Obviously, there's a problem with the picture I'm painting here. This can only happen once. If Zankou were nothing more than a character who gave you a free reaction at the start of the fight, I honestly wouldn't be making this video, as that is far from revolutionary. It's strong, yes, and convenient, but it doesn't change the fundamental of a team. However, if you know how her reaction passive interacts with Scorch, it changes how you see her, and this passive is why I don't believe that calling her an instant cycle unit is inaccurate. Now, we all know how Scorch works. It's simple really. Any reaction under normal circumstances is temporary. You trigger the reaction, it stays for some time, and then it disappears. Then you have to do it again. Quite the normal rotation of things. There is built-in downtime, which is purposefully done by the devs. Zankou's kit introduces a bizarre interaction with this process. Her cycle enhancement allows Scorch to stack up to 3 times, while any damage over the time application can refresh the Scorch duration. This for me is when reading her kit starts to sound more like a support. Don't get me wrong, Zankou is a full-blown damage dealer, but that passive has so much utility it would fit right into a support skit and you wouldn't even bat an eye. A normal support would apply Scorch then call it a day. Zankou sets a condition to ensure that the reaction is always present. Given that Lacrimosa and Zankou apply so many damage over time stacks, Scorch will remain on the target for the entire gameplay loop. Now this is where the way you think of her should change, as instantly applying Scorch once is useful, but it isn't anything to write home about. However, Zankou applies Scorch and maintains it continuously, which allows other units to come in and exploit that reaction easily. This solves one of the issues that has needed one duplicate of Lacrimosa so far, as with Scorch constantly on the target, Discord starts becoming way less of a headache to trigger consistently. If you own Lacrimosa or know a bit about her, you should remember many wanting another copy of her so they can get the instant cycle to trigger Discord, as Lacrimosa's reaction passive is a Discord enhancement, which was not groundbreaking in any way, but ensuring you had consistent Discord was difficult, as Discord requires a combination of Scorch and Nova at the same time. Without an instant cycle unit, that rotation is a problem. Not impossible, sure, you can get it done, but it wasn't the most optimal and led to a DPS loss while building up cycle on Fadia or Haniel. It was also easy to mess up the timing if you didn't fill the cycle fast enough for triggering one or the other between Scorch and Nova. Now, put Zankou into this conversation right here. She enters the team, she has a full Esper cycle. She swaps to Lacrimosa and establishes the Scorch. She swaps off and Lacrimosa attacks. As long as Lacrimosa keeps attacking, the Scorch will be stacked and reapplied. When Lacrimosa's cycle is filled, you no longer have a reason to trigger Scorch anymore. It never disappeared in the first place. You can now switch to Haniel or Fadia to trigger the Nova. Because Scorch never left the unit, you will also trigger Discord as well. Just like that, the problem with triggering Discord has disappeared. This gets even better as the rotation will only be dependent on getting the Nova reaction. With it triggered, so will Discord. The once impractical rotation is now practical and easily obtainable, all at A0, without the need to go deeper into your wallet for copies. This is where the traditional tags of a DPS or support really start to fall away when describing Zankou. I mean, if she gave Lacrimosa and Fuchsia Sac DPS units a damage boost, we would easily call her a support. If she simply dealt damage on field or off field, she would then be a damage dealer or a substitute DPS. However, what she does is largely dependent on what you want to use her as you can always use her as a sub DPS with Lacrimosa, and this Discord synergy will still be usable and viable. Zankou ends up asking the question, who can exploit the situation I have created best? Right now, it is Lacrimosa. In future, it might be a Nova DPS or a Discord heavy DPS. And then there is Zero. I can't help but bring up this comparison. There's no avoiding it at this point. If we're talking instant cycle, Zero is the benchmark. The reason he is so valuable today is because of this one mechanic. I thought it would be a good idea to bring this up now to show you the value this could present in the right hands. Zero breaks the normal cycle. His ability to fill up the Cosmos cycle instantly makes him a reaction engine. His strength being that he can choose which of the 3 rotations he or she gives you. He can give you Remora or Blossom, even charged with a proper rotation. He has found his way into almost every Cosmos team and makes a good spot for Team 1. One of the biggest selling points of Zankou and Lacrimosa is not just the damage they deal, but also the fact that they do not need 0. 0 gives you an instant access to Cosmos and can refresh it consistently off cooldown. Zankou, on the other hand, gives you an instant access to Scorch with the ability to keep Scorch active on the enemy throughout the whole battle. They aren't interchangeable in any way, as they exist on the opposite end of the Esper cycle reaction wheel. But strategically, we cannot run away from the fact that these are remarkably similar. Both can enter a fight and immediately set up the conditions that another character might need. That's why I think you should not look at her as being compared to 0 here. The better question is, does Zankou give your account another way to solve the same type of problems that 0 solves for Cosmos characters? And if that answer is yes, then you can already see how she potentially has far more value than just her personal DPS. But wait, Zankou still has a DPS identity. Now, don't get me wrong, this doesn't mean we should ignore most of her kit because of this. Zankou isn't a secret support who just so happens to have flashy attacks. Her damage over time mechanics are still a major part of her kit. And so is her damage. She is still a damage dealer, who will potentially get even stronger with the upcoming Linko. That much hasn't changed, nor will it change simply because she has this utility. She just so happens to open multiple synergies with Scorch characters. Sakiri, for an example. She benefits from enemies carrying multiple unique damage over time types, as she increases damage based on this while the target is scorched. Zankou's kit happens to be quite convenient for this. Then we can't deny it, a Zankou video without this would not be complete. There is always the nuclear option, which has seen a lot of love in the community. The break-oriented playstyle. This is, however, in no way similar to the low investment playstyle I have discussed here. Zankou is a DPS. We all know it. If you get multiple copies, well, let me not say multiple copies, but if you get one copy of Zankou and activate her A5, while at the same time getting a copy of the Daffodil and activating the A5, we all know the break damage gameplay. She also wants field time. That can also work as a sub DPS, sharing field time with Lacrimosa. I'll say it again, she is a damage dealer. She also, though, can establish Scorch and keep it there, which is an amazing support utility for Discord rotations and any future Nova DPS that might want to use Discord. So now that we have established that, we can go back to the claim that started this whole video. Is Zankou the first A0 character since 0 to provide an instant cycle? My answer there is Zankou appears to occupy the same strategic category that 0 has, who can immediately make it possible to trigger a 3-element reaction easily. And ironically, this is why I still think Zankou might be future-proof, but not for the reason I originally thought. Yes, hit damage over time stack spreading might see some future use and be more valuable, but the persistent Scorch seems to offer more value at face value right now, especially when we consider 0, who is dominating right now because of instant cycle. So after some time with Zankou's post-release, I don't think the important question is whether Zankou is the strongest DPS in NTE. There obviously will be a stronger damage dealer in the future. A character able to one-shot every overworld boss will appear, and that team might eventually take the throne as the strongest. This for me is not what makes Zankou interesting. What makes her interesting is her ability to establish the Scorch and keep it there forever. This is the value proposition for her entire kit right now, so maybe the biggest discovery isn't that Zankou is stronger than we thought. It's probably that I was measuring her using the wrong ruler. Her damage is the part of the kit we can easily see. That alone is its own value. However, the bigger value is the time saved, the reactions enabled, and the simplified rotations due to her Scorch enhancement passive. Zankou isn't future-proof because she will always be the character doing the most damage. She is future-proof because she can make the characters better simply by enhancing the conditions they operate in. If this interpretation holds up as we get more characters in the future, Zankou might be remembered as one of NTE's strongest characters and not just NTE's strongest damage dealer. Well, that rounds up my thoughts on Zankou after playing around with her after release. Did you pull for Zankou? If so, how are you finding her? Did you go for Nunnally instead? Or is Blackbird monopolizing your attention? Let me know down below in the comments. Until the next time, I will see you in Heather.